talk a little bit about the situation around religious freedom in Tibet and the importance of this government raising these issues. I have the pleasure of serving as the Vice Chair of the Canada-Tibet Interparliamentary Friendship Group and of participating in the Friends of Tibet internship program and having someone in my office involved in that program who's doing a great job. This is on the demolition of Larangar. In 2016, the Chinese government began the wide-scale demolition of Larangar, one of the largest Tibetan Buddhist centers in the world, with plans to downsize it by 50% and evict half of its 10,000-plus residents. The evictees are forced to sign a document pledging to neither return to the institute nor continue their practice in their hometowns. In 2016, the Freedom House report ranked Tibet in the second worst in political and civil rights after Syria. Similarly, Amnesty International has reported on the increasing restrictions on Tibetan monastic institutes by the Chinese government. Despite the continuing repression, Tibetans in Tibet have been at the forefront of the Tibetan movement to fight for their fundamental human rights. Now, in 2016, the European Parliament adopted an emergency resolution on Tibet condemning the demolition of Larangar and calling for the resumption of dialogue with Tibetan representatives. This past February, on the eve of the 34th session of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, 6 independent UN experts expressed concern over China's systematic religious crackdown and the violation of international human rights. The U.S. congressional delegation to Dharamsala last month called for a rethink of policies to defend and promote human rights in Tibet. Given the international condemnation of China's Tibet policies, Canada should also stand on the right side of history. As the Canadian government seeks to develop stronger ties with China, it should be doing it in a way that is consistent with our values, seeking China to adopt the middle way approach. The middle way approach, for members who don't know, is something that is advocated by the Tibetan community, by the Dalai Lama himself, that calls not for independence, but for genuine autonomy within the framework of the Chinese Constitution. The Canadian government has at different times called for dialogue, but I think they should go the next step and actually endorse the middle way approach, which is genuine autonomy for Tibet within the framework of the Chinese Constitution. Certainly it is consistent with the principles of the self-determination of peoples that is established in international law that this government is supposed to believe in. Now, when you think about the use of House time, Mr. Speaker, the government could have chosen to bring forward a motion that dealt with something concrete and specific, like a motion similar to the one passed by the European Parliament, specifically condemning the demolition of Larangar. Instead, though, they would rather talk in vague generalities so that they have an opportunity to pat themselves on the back without actually dealing with specific issues such as this terrible demolition that's happening, some of the broader issues of human rights in Tibet. And it would be worthwhile, even outside of a motion of the House, if we had the Minister of Foreign Affairs make some specific statements about human rights in China, some specific statements with regard to this demolition that's going on.